Okay, I just want to say a couple of things about the impact of this on your education. You guys are in, is it third year? Fourth year?
Postgraduates.
Postgraduates, yeah, okay. So things have probably changed even in the time that you've been here, yeah? And one of the things that this particular quote, I won't read it to you, but you're welcome to take it in, is that it is a significant change. And one of the changes that we're seeing and encouraging is the idea of the group forming, the fact that you can collaborate with each other. My kind of definition of social media is a collaborative tool, okay? It might be that it's a one-way transaction. It might be that you're using YouTube or Flickr or something that probably is just a one-way transaction with me issuing an address that you can go and have a look at this. But they can be two-way, as Kirsteen was explaining. Twitter or Facebook or other tools like that are actually multi-way communications. And our argument is that the whole of the education sphere is actually changing because of these aspects, and that's what we're going to be demonstrating some of to you today. And it's a kind of move to, there was a suggestion that we as academics would be working in the paperless office. Okay, it isn't actually like that because still people are using paper for reviewing things, but we'll talk about the e-assessment project and the fact your assessments are probably electronically submitted, but also your academic colleagues are now probably reviewing them and marking them and even giving feedback in the electronic form. So there's a whole move from the old way to what we think of as this new technology. I just want to give you a very bit of theory. We don't want to talk about too much theory, but there's a reference from somebody called Jane Hart about the types of social learning. Again, I won't read all the stuff out to you, but there are 5 kind of types that are identified by this academic colleague. And it starts with inter-organisational. That's really not necessarily what education is about, but it's basically disseminating information at an organisational level. But the 3 that come next are the ones that are probably the ones that are most directly affecting yourselves in education. So there's the formal stuff. There's the stuff that we might, as academics, be putting through the virtual learning environment, Oasis Plus, my UniHub as it is now. It might be that formal sort of stuff. There might be group-directed activities, and again, it's kind of what we're doing today is part of that. But a group can be 2 people. You know, there could be a suggestion that you look at each other's work or peer review or whatever it might be. And there's also this kind of new concept of personal directed learning. There's a sort of term that people use now, instead of the virtual learning environment, it's a personal learning environment. And I think when we demonstrate, hopefully your people who use my UniHub areas, that you can actually customise and personalise those things in the same way as you can make an iGoogle page or a Yahoo page personalised. And the 5th one is this kind of weird one that just happens sometimes, sort of accidentally learning things. And that's again one of the things that social media can make happen. I don't control what comes into my feed. I use RSS feeds from certain websites. I use Twitter, I use things like that. And some things will just come in accidentally. And it's one of the powers of social media that those things happen and you can learn in that way.
So bringing this back to what we're doing, doing as learners, how can these tools enhance my learning experience? And a message that is not to be forgotten is that we shouldn't be using this stuff without purpose or a good reason, but the potential, we think, does exist for us to develop our skills, develop certain skills by using social media if it's done correctly. For example, presentation skills, organisational skills. We've got so much information at our fingertips now. How do we sift through that? The potential exists for us to use these tools for enhancing our group work skills, social skills, critical thinking. We do have all this stuff at our fingerprints. How do we sort out the wheat from the chaff? How do we get those, find those good nuggets of information when there's so much not good information out there? And also they help us, can help us enhance our discussion skills. They can help us become more efficient. And the one that we really subscribe to is this idea around collaborative work, that we're becoming content producers rather than just passively consuming content. we can't use stuff on the internet, we can't just take it and pass it off as our own, so it kind of enhances that discussion and promotes that discussion of plagiarism. But also we do need to know more about copyright issues and data protection issues. And really powerful, I think, is this idea of forming communities of practice.
I just interject something, Kirsteen, quickly. One of the easiest things to do when you get asked to do some kind of academic task is to go to Wikipedia. I don't know, what's your view as an academic on Wikipedia referencing?
Yeah.
But sometimes there are academics in the community who say, don't even go there, I'll mark it down. But what we do encourage is to say, go and justify what the information is and check it against other sources. And that is, again, one of the powers of search engines and one of the powers of the internet, that you can actually do that sort of thing. And it's very much what you should be doing.
So as I say, there's so much information out there, and there's so many examples we could have show you. We wanted to sort of bring it down to Middlesex level. And we're just going to go through some examples, and this isn't all that's happening at Middlesex, this is just some examples. But did you know?
Okay, yeah, interesting enough. How many people in the room know that the Middlesex University has its own app? Just a straw poll? That's about 50%, maybe just slightly more. Okay, hands down, and then no, hand up again if you actually used that app. That's interesting. Not so many. Okay.
Can I just say Steve was involved in?
Yeah, one of the things that we were involved in as developers was talking to the people who wanted to develop it, which was led by library resources, learning resources, whatever they're called these days. And what they wanted to do was put the whole of the virtual learning environment on an app that you could access from your mobile. Good theory, but unfortunately the technology just wasn't ready to do that. So what has happened is that there's an app that's been launched that's got a lot of things that are really useful to you. So you can do things like check what's in the library, whether there's a copy available. You can do renewals. You can even go and find out whether there's terminals in the computer room, and all sorts of really interesting things you can do through the app. And one of the questions we might come back to in the discussion towards the end is to just tease out of you what things you might imagine could be added, even though you may not have looked at the app. What sort of things would you be seeing, such that you, from home, from the bus, from somewhere else, can log in and do some university activities via an application like that. And so there's basically just 3 screenshots there of some of the things that you can use. And one of the lovely things is the library subject guides. You can actually read them. There's really useful, helpful information in there. You can even do a request to the librarian for information about something, and it will be responded to. It's a really good application. I would recommend you go and have a look at it. It's linked directly from UniHub. Just go and have a look. And just at the bottom there's a couple of reviews from people. Very comprehensive directive, all university learning resources. A more social side of the student life is added. And that's basically where we're going. I'm on another committee that's looking at what happens next. And so we might be just asking you for some thoughts. So maybe keep it in the back of your mind before the end of this session that we're going to be asking what might you want to see in there.
And it's free, isn't it?
It's a free app, yeah.
But this is an example of a Facebook group. This is for the Mentoring in Nursing in Europe students. And this kind of ties in with that example that another educator had put forward as a good use of Facebook. These students are based in London at Middlesex. There's students in Malta, in Italy, in Finland, and I think there's another group in Cyprus as well. And these students come together for 2 weeks in the year. The rest of the time they're communicating virtually. And a lot of resistance initially was put forward by the students about getting themselves online, about making themselves public, about going onto Facebook. But actually, you know, just in terms of photos posted and the number of members that have signed up, it's turned out to be a really popular way of just keeping in contact with each other, keeping those relationships and those conversations that build up when they have these 2 weeks intensive face-to-face going. This is MDX Play. Have any of you watched any videos on MDX Play? This is the university's YouTube sample. Equivalent, that's the word I'm looking for. There's a lot of promotional stuff on the site, but there's a lot of, I think more and more, there's a lot more educational content going up now. The Institute for Work-Based Learning use it a lot, and the work that we do in supporting distance education programs in the business school has really seen an increase of using this kind of content. the distance education students that we're working with never come to London. They're based globally across the world in a variety of programs, and the feedback in just having some short videos introducing subjects, introducing the program, introducing topics, assessment, tips for revision from the module team has really made an impact on the students, just in the simple sense of being able to put a face to a name. So that's a really good use of the media, I think.